really useful and important. So how it's got to be was it just, I got an invite, I had a look at the conference, saw that the tickets were really cost effective. There was a special on at New Zealand. I gave Rustica a call and said, do you want to come? She goes, yep, let's go. So we did it. It all happened in like the space of about 6 hours. It was just that flow. It was just flow. It just flowed. So we knew this was the right thing to do. So what we did was we actually took off. We got a great apartment. It was fantastic. It was Darling Harbour. And what we did was we actually got, that was our lift to the penthouse. So we just took a little selfie in the lift, which was great on the night we arrived. It was fantastic. And this is the view from our apartment. So we had it's just a great way of sort of starting the whole conference. Very excited. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is slightly different in that it comes, really the context for what I'm speaking on is more around leadership. And given the changes that are occurring in business today, not only in the context of learning, but also on a larger scale around organisation shape, how they're changing, and obviously as an outcome of that, the impact it's having on people and leadership in that context. And then one of the things that I was really excited to go to, because as the girls shared with the ASTD conference, we sat down, booked our concurrent sessions, which one are you going to go to, which one am I going to go to, and I tended to focus on the leadership and some other areas around coaching, developing a coaching culture within businesses, which is one of my passions. And so those are the sort of the conference sessions I went to. So what I'm going to do is give you an overview of the leadership and then the coaching. So we'll go into those two pieces. So that's what we'll start with. The clicker's not working, so I'm sorry, ladies. I'm going to sort of have to bend in and do that. So the first part is essentials of leadership in a networking social world. So we'll look at that. Basically what gets you from to here will no longer get any leader to there where we're going. So anything and everything that you've done up until now will no longer apply or be as effective going forward. And this was a core message that was actually given by one of the core key presenters, a gentleman called Harry Jark, whom I recommend you actually look up online at .com, so jarche.com. And he has done an enormous amount of research, and he blogs, publishes, presents and speaks across the globe around trends that are occurring for organisations and what that impact that has in the way we operate as leaders and obviously on the broader scale of everyone within the organisation. So some of this content is his, so I can't claim that this is what I've created, but I've taken aspects of it. One of the things that he said, that anything that you can put on a spreadsheet or that you can actually put on paper as a process, or in fact any workflow, process, system, will be automated in time. Will be automated. So what does that mean for organisations and the people within organisations? What's happening to organisations given that that automation is occurring consistently and more rapidly? As we go forward, we're moving into a network era. That's basically where it's heading. So that what we know, we moved from a siloed organisation where you've had obviously silos. I go into, I'm a consultant, so I go into organisations from time to time, and that still exists in some. Yet I know that a lot of organisations are looking at ways to diminish that and become more network-based, more cross-functional. I think that's probably more a known title around, this move towards a decentralisation. But typically some companies are moving towards centralisation, so they're centralising, and then we're decentralising, and that's where we're heading to. So that it's very much about networking. It's very much about organisations becoming more network-based. So global learning, some of the content that was talked about today was, a learner can go anywhere to find any information at any time. So they have access to social networks, they have access to mocks that we know today are out there. And so an organisation has to be much more flexible in how they work with their people. And so everything's becoming a lot more decentralised. So what does that mean? It basically means that in a leadership context, that the old way, do it my way, no longer applies. So what are the essentials of essential sort of traits or characteristics that leaders now need to understand for themselves and working with teams that are agile, working with teams that are no longer central siloed or centralised, that are actually completely decentralised all over the world. What does that mean? So from a leadership point of view, what Jacques talked about was actually connected leadership. So it was all about looking at how leaders become more connected, collaborative work, which we've talked a little bit about, and then social learning. Now, this was presented in the context of learning, and I've taken some pieces out of that around the leaders within a business and how that impacts them. So some of this will speak about learning. But the connected leadership piece around being more agile and understanding what's required of a leader today and how they actually work with their teams, how they create collaboration, best practice, and what they need to do that's different from where they have been. And he talks about connected leadership around loose hierarchies. There are some amazing examples in this book that he cited and recommended around organisations who are self-managed. There are no specific leaders managing, it's very self-managed. Work teams focus on peer-to-peer reviews. They don't have a hierarchy, and it's very much flat, and that's what we're moving towards. And interestingly, the girls at Kiwi Bank talked about servant leadership. So there's some real consistent messages coming across from all different presentations. So strong networks, not necessarily hierarchies, and what he's talking about is moving from, obviously, that sort of more control-based leadership towards the servant leadership. And then there's transparency, diversity and openness. And there's three essentials that I sort of picked up while I was there listening to him. And those three essentials are very much for a leader as being, understanding cooperation, what that means. That means about sharing. That means about transparency. That's about being open. Obviously collaboration. And then he talks about agile and being effective. They've got question marks there, but it's something that people are beginning to question around agility in leadership, and that's something that's quite I don't know if some of you have had hot topics or seen that that's become quite a hot topic in leadership and the style of leadership. So what does that mean? Agile, it's literally being able to flex and move across the different styles of employees, the different networks are out there, obviously sharing, cooperation, all those different things, so being agile with that, and then being very open. So what does open mean? Sharing, transparency, trust. There's a lot of value underneath this. Is a lot of reinforcing the foundations of values. So trust being an important one. Being open and trusting that the sharing is about giving without expecting to receive back. That's very much a big thing at the moment. And just offering to give rather than what can I get back. It's very much about that. So openness, very much about openness. And then from collaboration to cooperation. So that's exactly what he was saying, sharing freely. And this is exactly what tonight's about. It's sharing freely. It's actually giving and sharing with no expectation or feedback and direct reciprocation. It's just giving it away. So those are some of the core messages around that, which was really important. And I could see that becoming more and more apparent going into organisations where they're really basing a lot of their leadership development around their values and getting those really honed around, okay, what are the core values we need to actually look at now going forward in a network society, because it is, or a social network environment, because they are slightly different, and reinforcing those more and more. And for leaders to understand that they do lead from a different perspective today. So, and that's been touched on throughout the presentations that have been come up. So this was actually something that he brought up. I thought that was a really great slide around the organisations that talk about in the future. He's actually cited them in the book as different coloured organisations. Some of you might be aware that there is a sort of a process that you go through from, there are different colours that represent different stages of evolution. And I'll just share a little story where I was, about 4 years ago, I went to a wealth seminar, and there was a step-by-step sort of ladder of where you are today and, you know, where you can progress. And, you know, the first step, if you're in debt, you're in red. If you've got a little bit of asset, you're in blue. If you've got a lot of asset, you're yellow. And if you've got masses of equity, then, you know, you're teal, purple. So colours were used to signify stages in processes around wealth. They've used the exact same concept in this book around organisations, and organisations around evolution of consciousness, that mindfulness that was talked about earlier, and organisations evolving in those different phases and colour stages. And that's exactly what they've done in this book. He's actually cited organisations moving from red to orange to all those different colours to what he calls as an evolved, a consciously evolved organisation being teal. So what this slide refers to is that type of organisation. Self-organising, self-managing, peer-to-peer based, and a number of different elements that he spoke about. You can see the different colours here that he cites here as green, where an organisation cooperating in green and collaborating in orange. I think we're pretty much aware of collaboration today. That's something that I hear a lot when I go into companies say, well, we want to collaborate more, we want to learn how to collaborate in the organisation, become, obviously more connected, cross-functionally and project-based, etc. And moving towards, obviously, the self-organising, which is accountability, responsibility, all those things that we know. So, great reading. If you're if you don't win the book, I highly recommend you go and get it, because it's massively valuable as an understanding of where organisations are going today and the impact of learning on that. So, it's a very important slide. So, what we did was, during the conference, we decided to go and have some dinner, just as a break, to go down to the Sydney Opera House, and we had some dinner there, which was lovely. So we picked some wine, so we had a nice evening, the first evening. And then the following day, we did some more sessions, and there was a networking event, which was fun, and we met quite a number of different people, which was excellent. Then the next day, there were a number of other sessions, and my focus was more around, okay, how do we then implement a coaching culture? And that was really designed because I've got a couple of clients who are asking me exactly that, so I want to talk to companies about that and give them what's happened. So, building a coaching culture, and these are the key pieces. The actual example that I'm going to give you, the highlights are from a case study that was actually shown at the conference by someone who, as an organisation, went into a company and set that up. So it was an insurance-based, it was another one. It was actually a manufacturing company. They manufactured beauty goods, and there were natural ingredients. This company in Australia, who you may or may not know, called Jurlique, actually have their own farm, and they make their own herbs, sunflowers, and they put all those natural products into their products and they market them out. They're growing exponentially, extremely fast, and the challenge was, how do we create an environment where we are constantly evolving and changing, because they had some massive challenges because of the fast growth around engagement and so on. But I'll go through this, but just to give you the framework around where this has come from. But some background around coaching, why coaching works. How many of you have either set up coaching, programs within your organisation. So not, a lot of you will be familiar with this. These are stats that come from ICF, International Coach Federation, based in the US, and it talks about the impact coaching has on organisations. So, I'm happy to give this to Rustica to send out so that you've got it. I'm more than happy to do that. It's freely available, but it gives you some real good quantitative numbers that support the changes that occur in organisations as an outcome of developing and setting up coaching cultures. So what happened with Julie was the case study. The first thing that they found was defining what is a coaching culture, because someone else brought it up today around definition, making sure you define what that is for the organisation. So what is a coaching culture? We talk two sort of definitions here. Is when a coaching approach is a key aspect of how leaders, managers and employees engage. So it's coaching conversations, how people are developed in a way that increases individual, team and organisation performance. That's by Hawkins. And then the other one was a culture where people coach each other at all times as a natural part of meetings, reviews and one-to-one discussions. So it's just the way we are here. It's the way we operate every day. So as a learning in this case, they needed to understand what that meant for that organisation, what that would look like. And they used a couple of generic definitions to help them get that ball rolling, get them thinking at that leadership level. What does this actually mean to us? So the project was a 6-month implementation plan. All the leaders at the top level were involved with the program. What their challenges were low levels of employee engagement. They were so busy due to the growth that they were all, reactive and extremely busyness. No development in the past, so they hadn't actually sat down and actually worked out obviously an L&D strategy. But again, they had a massively high growth agenda, and that's what they were focused on. So those are some of the challenges. What they then did is they decided, to look at some considerations. Now, I've actually had a couple of clients where I put a program in, a coaching program in, and some of the things that I've learned as well is any change in behaviour requires time to shift. So change of behaviours, which most of you probably understand that is an unconscious act. So, let them find the learning, which is one of the principles that was brought up today. Get them to understand the learning rather than telling them how to tell them what to think, tell them how to think. Same principles. And it does take time, 6 months to embed and become an unconscious behaviour. Whatever process used, it requires courage, humility, patience and open-mindedness. Again, leaders in a connected world today need to be role modelling these, the openness, the patience and the humility. Experiment rather than pilot, suggested at conference that you actually look to experiment these things rather than pilot them. We're just trying something out. Takes away quite a bit of pressure on placing pilots everywhere. So it was recommended that there was an experiment with it. Strengthen communication skills. Now this was the interesting thing. What they did was they actually took all the leadership team and put them in an incubator around, and they went through communication skills, specifically listening, before they even went into the coaching. So they got those skills embedded first around that before they started that coaching program. And that was really important. That made a difference, quite a significant difference to the role modelling from the top down in that environment. Clarity of purpose and strategy, making sure that their dialogue sits in the heart of change. So that was all about that communication piece up front. Now these are the core lessons that they learned. They implemented, they needed to ensure they had a shared understanding of what coaching is for them. Again, define what coaching means, because what we're dealing with there is assumptions and beliefs, and everybody has their own assumption of what coaching is. So really important to get that clarity very early before rolling out any type of program, is to then define what that actually means for the organisation. And as it states, create a curriculum so that the senior executive team are also involved, engage in the program, measure the impact of the business pre and post. How many of you have done that with programs that you've set out pre and post? Yes? Sarah, what have you done? What kind of measurements have you used?
We use all sorts.
Yeah.
We usually talk with our clients about what it is that they already have existing that we can utilise as a measure, and then we bring in our own measures. So a lot of our measures are around attitudinal adjustment. So we'll say, what were your thoughts about it beforehand? Now where do you sit on that scale? Those sorts of things is how we utilise.
Yeah, great. Anyone else have any others that they've used in the past, Jacinta?
In conjunction with DB,
Yes.
they measured risky behaviours around forklift driving before implementing the learning, and that was both e-learning and coaching.
Great.
And then they measured the risky behaviours after. So rather than just measuring incidents, they measured the behaviours as well.
Yeah, nice. Okay, great. So there are a number of different ways you can measure engagement surveys, all those sort of different things you can do. And pre and post, and then ensure ownership and obviously sponsorship, and who's accountable for the program, the whole program and the outcomes. And then the smaller the coaching group, the better. You get more traction, more momentum, and a better mind shift. They found that worked really well for them. And there's Rustica. We were actually on the Friday at a spa. We decided to go and treat ourselves, and we spent a few hours at treating ourselves with a massage. So, yeah. There she is. Okay, so are there any questions or anything you want to ask about the coaching or the actual, the essential leadership?
I'd just like to ask if you thought it was good value at the end.
Go
Thought it was good value beforehand. Did you
absolutely.
think it was good after?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was a good experience, and it was really, for me, it was more about, okay, I need to go and find out what's happening out there, and I hadn't been for a couple of years, and the difference was significant, the change, the newness of language and the newness of all the things that we're learning tonight. It was just like, okay, wow, this is amazing, this is fantastic. And it sort of feels like we're on the edge of it, which is great. So leading the way, in a way, it's like actually leading the way here and bringing it in. So different ways, yeah. So it's great.
What was attendance like? Was there a lot of people
Overall,
there?
150? Was it that? I thought it was a little bit more, but 150, 200 people, which I thought was a bit low, to be honest, for a conference like that. But yeah, yeah, but
we probably had a few hundred at ours as well.
Oh yeah. But it was great. Recommend if you get the opportunity to go next year. I highly recommend it. It's absolutely, worthwhile going. So, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yes.
Books, do the draw.
The basket.
Otherwise I'll forget.
Right. Right. Well, as you've noticed, there's a man in the room. That's Brody. He's the cameraman. So I was thinking getting Brody to
Yes.
pull the cards.
Yes.
Yeah, Brody. Okay, Brody. Thanks. So two cards. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Nobody mugging me for that? Pull the right ones in.
Okay, what have we got? Okay, so we've got Cindy Bradley. Yay! Well done.
Thank you.
Change the story now.
And Gillian Emery.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I just point out that there is a very useful resource to most of